Don't do it.
You're on.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for logging on tonight. Right now, I'm out of town, and Justin gets to be in the studio, but I get to call you from a remote location, and I'm really excited about the blessings of Skype, and I think that it's really so awesome. If you don't have Skype or FaceTime, you need to be able to get it because it'll give you an opportunity to be able to minister to, as well as communicate with people that love you as well as the people that you love. So it's through the miracle of technology that we get to be able to come to you tonight from two different locations. So thanks for logging on and for coming on to our Q&A tonight. And tonight, I want to talk to you about some things that I think you're going to find real interesting because I want to talk to you about life improvement. No matter where you are, each and every one of us want to improve. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But what I'd like for you to do right now is I'd like for you to just, pick up your phone or just text somebody and say, come on, let's listen to Q&A together, as well as I want you to tell me where you are. We have a number of countries that actually come on every time that we have Q&A. So I'd just like for you to just kind of like text in our comment box that's over to the right and tell us where it is that you are communicating to us from and become part of our conversation. I really want to have the kind of comments and conversation that, comes in a good relationship. And I want a great relationship with you. But one other thing I want to do tonight that we haven't done normally, and that is that if you need prayer, I want you to put that in the comment box just as well, because we want to pray for you. I think that we make a big deal about certain things and not enough of a big deal about our brothers and our sisters that need our encouragement. And so thanks for logging on. And Justin, do you have anything you
Yeah,
want to
Dr. T, I just wanted to say, too, I really like what this platform lends itself for the person listening. It gives them an opportunity to interact with us on a personal level. They can ask you questions, which not only answers questions for them, but it also answers questions that somebody else may have not known to ask, or they didn't, have the courage to ask it in this platform. But I really like this platform because it gives people practical ways of applying these spiritual principles that we're going to talk to tonight. And I know you'd mentioned about improvement, but specifically in the workplace, and that's where, besides sleep, that's where most of the people spend the majority of their time is in the workplace and doing what God called them to do, for those 40 to 60 hours every single week. So I know this is going to be very practical, and we're giving something really neat away is a wealth creation kit, which to anybody who asks a question or offers a prayer request, we would love to get that link to you free, our way of just saying thank you for being with us tonight. So pretty excited, and I think it's going to be a really, really good night.
It's also really important for us to be able to know what's important to you. We want to know the kind of things that you'd like to talk about. I don't just want to have monologue and just be able to transmit in your direction. But what I would like to do is I would like for us to be able to have some dialogue so that I would know how you feel. It's interesting in relationships that relationships are only as good as your ability to be able to answer the questions that are going on in another person's heart, even before they ask them. And so if you just kind of tell me the directions that your heart is being pulled in, where you are or where your relationships are, all of those things matter to me and to Justin as well. And so we're really grateful for you to be able to be with us tonight. And so just email somebody, just text someone, just say, hey, come on to the Q&A, because I think they're talking about something that you and I were asking me about before. And to me, it's really faithful for us, or important for us to build a faithfulness of partnership. This partnership that we have together on our online community means so much to me because it kind of lets me know where the future is going for all of society. I need to know what kind of makes you tick, what's really important to you, what kind of things matter to you. and how it is that you believe that God is leading you. And so tonight, I want to talk to you about something that, as I said, I know that you'll find interesting because it's really interesting to me, and that's in the arena of promotion. Each and every one of us desires to be promoted in all areas of life. I mean, how many of you would say that you'd like the situation that you have at the workplace to be better? Or how many of you would like better friendships? How many of you would like a better marriage? How many of you would like a marriage kind of almost of any type? Because a marriage, people believe that they're at least accepted or someone chose them when they're married. At the workplace, how many of you would actually like to be recognized for your value, what you bring to the table, how it is that you act, or even in your church life, your faith life? How many of you would really like to be recognized in that area of your life? Because when you're recognized in that area of life, you think that the other areas of life will fall into line. Justin, tell me, what do you think about improvement or promotion when it comes to the workplace?
Yeah, there's
you're in a workplace. You're in a workplace. What do you think about?
Well, I think there's two thoughts. One is being consistent and not giving up your ground too soon. I feel like many people will jump from one idea to another idea. They'll get this, you know what, you can make money here or you can make money there. And rather than build something, they consistently are going, I guess you would say, laterally across and not making much ground as far as building a future for their family. And then secondly is just being patient with the process, allowing God to bring the increase and not trying to manipulate a situation or circumstance and so forth.
Well, that's really true. The whole idea of being patient. Patience actually goes hand in hand with being consistent. It is said that it actually, if you really want something that's real in the arena of promotion, it takes approximately 5 years to really build that strong of a foundation. Once you build that strong of a foundation, people begin to know who you are. They begin to trust who you are. And when they begin to trust who you are, then your life can begin to move in the directions that you desire for them to go in. You know, I was just, previous to us coming on Q&A tonight, I just was on in another online session with another business, to actually go along with what we do. And we talked about that self-improvement. We talked about relationships. We talked about how a person does certain things in order to come where they need to come. And so I think that it's so important for an individual to come to a place to where they need to grab onto just two things.
Yeah.
Two things in friendship, two things in marriage, or in that type of intimacy type relationships, two things with a person's parents, that as long as they have two things in any area of life, they can begin to build toward the future.
Yeah, Dr. T, too, with improvement, it seems interesting that it actually causes you to admit that you need to improve. If you're okay with where you're at, you tend not to pursue improvement. I mean, I found that to be interesting.
Well, one of my friends, Bill Gothard, and many people know who Bill is. He said he had a bumper sticker that was like this: PBP GIFWMY, and no one ever knew what that bumper sticker really meant. But what that bumper sticker meant was this: Please be patient. God isn't finished with me yet.
Yep, definitely. We're all in a work in progress.
Absolutely. Not only are we in a work, not only are we in a work in progress, but what it is that we need to realize that although we may be a king, that God has called us kings and priests forever, yet at the same time, we haven't come into our kingdom as of yet. And so we're growing up and we're learning and we're becoming, and everything that we are going to be is still in its, let's say, it's in its embryonic form, and will become that. But let's talk about the workplace for a moment. What do you think is one thing that a person can do in the workplace to actually secure a promotion for them?
Yeah, well, I think it begins with attitude, and it's not just be happy-go-lucky, but actually have an attitude that is contagious around the workplace. That you're there, you're when you're there, you are there, you're present, you're engaged, you're ready to make changes, you're ready to be or make improvements, you're looking for ways to do things better. It's like a mindset almost of I am going there with a purpose. I'm not just going there to exist, and I'm not just going there to make a paycheck. I'm going there because this is what I get to do.
Absolutely. And I think that the next thing that goes along with that, because that is also true, the attitude that you bring to the table. The next thing is that after you bring a great attitude, because a great attitude will take you places much further than skill. You know, it really, really will. But the second thing is becoming a problem solver.
Yeah.
You know, you can almost tolerate for a small amount of time a poor attitude if a person solves problems.
Yeah.
But if in fact that person has a great attitude and they solve problems at the same time, that to me is an ideal individual.
Sure.
Is that they don't create problems, they don't rehearse problems, they don't bring up problems, they don't exacerbate problems, they don't multiply problems, they actually solve problems. Every person in life is looking for a problem solver. No one in life is looking for a problem multiplier.
Yeah.
No one is looking for someone to point out their faults. No one is really looking for a critic. No one is looking for someone to put them down. Every person in life is looking for someone that will solve a problem for them. And a problem in a person's life is proof of a couple of things. Number one is that it is proof that God has another path for you to walk down. Or number two, that second thing is that there is someone in life that has been called by God to come into your life to help you solve that problem.
Problems are job security for a problem solver.
Well, not only that, is that if in fact that you have to not only be the husband, but what it is that you have to be Sarah as well. You've got to be the wife, you've got to be the mom, you've got to be the dad, you've got to be the breadwinner, you've got to be the happy person in relationship. That relationship is actually headed for some real disappointing times. But if in fact that the person if Sarah, let's use Sarah as an example, recognizes that God has called her to be a problem solver in your home, then what she does is that she frees you up to become everything that God has called you to be.
Sure.
But if in fact that what happens is that she believes that you are called to solve her problems, then you can never be a person who looks forward, because you're always having to take things or to look at things from a yesterday's perspective.
I have a question to continue the train of thought before we go too far. And it was, what are those two things? You said people need two things in different areas of their life. What are some examples of those two things in people's lives when it comes to succeeding?
Let's say that it has to do with with friends. Number one, you need to be a person who is discreet as a friend. Number two, you have to be a person who sharpens someone else. And you have to remember something, that in this whole idea or area of life, you need to be able to say to your friend, I will always stand with you, even during the moments that I have to stand against you. You have to be able to love them enough to say, I am going to stand against you, but I'm going to stand with you just the same. That's, that's the area of friendship. Now, we've talked about friendship in the past, but let me just remind the people of something that they need to know. And that is that I remember the time that probably the most noted evangelist in the world said to me, I'm grateful to have you on my TV program because everywhere I go, people keep saying that, do you know Robb Thompson? You need to be his friend. He said, so I want you on my program. I'm so glad you're here. And I said to them, I said, if it's God's will for us to be friends, then we'll be friends. So we started playing the text game, email game, chat game. We did that for a number of months because both of us, of course, are very busy. But finally, I wrote him in and said, in order to have relationships with those who are great, there must be requirements. I said, and so please write your requirements for me for relationship. And I said, and in order to save time, I want to let you know, I said, here are mine. I said, number one, I said, my friends must be committed to long-lasting relationships. You need to know what you want in a friend. Number two is that my friends must have empires in their brain. Where are you going? Because every person that you have as your friend, you need to be able to help them achieve their goals. That's why you're there. You're there to be able to multiply them. Every relationship either multiplies or divides a person. Number three, my friends must be sowers. I mean, it is the grandest disappointment and challenge for us to ever be in relationship with somebody who is stingy. They're very stingy, very selfish. Number four, my friends have to qualify to receive my seed because the future of the seed is really dependent upon the quality of the soil. My future is really dependent upon where I sow my seed. Yeah. My future is not dependent upon my compassion. My future is dependent upon where I sow my time, where I sow my money, where I sow my love, where I sow my care. That's where my future is really dependent in. So, and it's dependent upon. So I need to be able to sow my seed in a place that's going to bring forth a harvest because each and every one of us have been assigned by God as a farmer. And then number five, my friends must prize integrity above relationship. That they will stand for what is right, even when I am wrong. They'll stand for what is right. And then number six, and this is what I wrote this gentleman. I said, my friends must be willing to confront my enemies. So many times what happens in relationship is that people are betrayed by their friends' willingness to become friends and close comrades to people that hate them. So you don't even know who your friend is then.
Yeah.
And so I recognized all of that. And so I wrote that to him, emailed it, and I never heard from him again. Because a lot of times what happens is that people want to have relationships, but they don't really see the value of the relationship that they have. So I want to know, what is the value of the relationship that I have? I don't want to come to the end of my life thinking that I've sown into some great things and kind of wondering someday or when I get to heaven what God is going to do with me.
Yeah.
So in my relationships, in my friendships, I need to have discretion. And in my close relationships, I need to be able to give exclusivity. Exclusivity determines intimacy. And that intimacy is what causes a friendship to become a lifelong relationship.
Sure.
And in marriage, I need, as I mentioned before, when people ask me, they said, what is the most important aspect or ingredient in marriage? I say these words, I say, it's who you marry. Who you marry, what are your requirements for them? But the second thing is, number one is who you marry. Number two is who you want them to marry.
Yeah. Because you want to become something. You're not just wanting the best, but you become the best for whom you want to marry.
Yeah, because marriage isn't necessarily an achievement of something that I gained in life. Marriage is something that I actually have focused my relationship with Linda on this, that she will never be embarrassed that she ever married me. She'll never, ever think that I could have become greater as a man than I am. She'll never have to think that I could love her more than I do love her. And these are some things that I do in the area of well, we've talked about the job, we've talked about friendships, we've talked about marriage. What other area?
Well, Dr. T, I just want to, there's some people that probably joined on after the 5-minute mark, and I just want to remind you, anybody that asks a question, and Dr. T had asked, if anybody has a prayer request, we want to give you this wealth creation kit. I mean, it's a kit that involves quite a bit. Talks about the millionaire mindset, gives you practical ways on how to succeed on your job, and a whole bunch of different things. So all you have to do is ask a question, engage with us, interact with us, and Erin will make sure she gets you that link. But I have a question for you, Dr. T, with the workplace. Times are changing. Duration of times that people are at one place are changing. More people are becoming entrepreneurs or attempting to be. With those winds of change, have the rules changed as well? Or do you find that it's work your way up a ladder or work your way up a system, or do you find that it has been accelerated because technology, information, skill set has changed?
Let me kind of answer it in this way. The quality of any nation on the face of the earth is determined by the inhabitants that are the citizens or the citizens of that nation. The quality of America, the greatness of America is determined by the integrity, by the or by the quality of the American people. If America is defined by social programs, America's future is over. But if America is defined by honesty, hard work, integrity, dreaming, visions, goals, if America is defined by those things and a hope for the future, because remember, death has you in its grip the moment you have no hope for the future, that if America is defined by those things, then America will be a great nation. But if it's defined by uh, the social welfare programs, if it's defined by how little you can do and still receive full benefit, then America is doomed. The same thing is true in the area of the workplace. We seem to have, as we have been brought into a, let's say, a global market, people are becoming uh, interested, and more entrepreneurs are happening all the time because there are more opportunity for entrepreneurs on the face of the earth for working for yourself.
Yeah.
And it is a good thing to be able to work for yourself. I think that every person should be bivocational. That's how I feel. That's my thing. But along with that, you must always remember what your primary purpose is. If in fact that I work for, you know, Ajax exterminating company, if I work for them, then what I can't do is be spending more time on the side taking my, you know, my pesticides from Ajax and doing some side work at night. I must make sure that Ajax remains the people who get my best attitude, the people that gain my greatest amount of concern, the people who I'm thinking all the time about how we can make Ajax a better company. But and so as long as I keep, let's just say, first things first, as long as I do that, I'll be fine. Right now, we are in a very, very confusing marketplace. And that confusing marketplace is where people are talking about being able not only to have flex time, but what they want to do is they want to work remotely. And in them working remotely, they say, well, if I can do my job, then I don't need to, let's say, I don't need to spend time at the office. Time at the office, is you're really not there to be able to just do your work. Time at the office builds camaraderie. Time at the office actually builds a team spirit. Time at the office really causes your greatest amount of focus. And so with times changing and people beginning to work remotely, what individuals need to remember is that unless they focus on making their primary responsibilities strong, then they're not actually going to be able to get the benefits out of those primary focuses. And now they'll still expect them from there. But if people want to work as an entrepreneur, then they need to understand all of the costs that go along with being an entrepreneur.
Now, Solomon uses the word diligence so often. What did he mean by that? The diligent hand shall be made rich. Is that something that is lacking, especially in the generation that's coming up? Or is it something that has always lacked? Is laziness the opposite? What can you give us some insight on the idea of diligence, especially when it comes to the workplace?
Focus. It's that inside the workplace many times is that workplaces can't go forward. When businesses are new, people have single focus. As the businesses begin to age in years, many times they have to change the employees that they have. And the reason why that they have to change the employees is because employees begin to gain memory. Employees begin to just have extra things that hang on them. Their attitude begins to change. They begin to take authority over something that they're not responsible for. They begin to just get like a nickel cadmium battery. And I was thinking last week I'd seen a lady and I changing a battery in her cell phone. And I said to her, I said, how many batteries do you have? And she said, well, I have four. And I said, four? That's amazing that you would have that many batteries for your phone. And I thought to myself, the reason why that she has to have four batteries is because three of those batteries have begun to know what her, let's just say what her habits are. So instead of being good for 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hour talk time, they're good for an hour and a half talk time.
So they may say full charge, but they're not going to give you a full 4, 6,
No,
5
because
hours.
all of a sudden it goes from 93% of battery down to 23% of battery in a 30-minute phone conversation. And the same thing happens in the workplace. And you know it because, I mean, we work together, that what happens is that because so many individuals are used to saying no instead of saying yes. Sure, we can make that happen. We can do that. Sure, I can do that. Sure, I can help you. Sure, don't worry about it. We'll be able to get that done. Instead, you have people saying, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have enough time. I don't think that we can really pull that off. And thus, the way forward, the visions, the dreams, the goals, the desires, the aspirations go left unaccomplished. And so what really must happen is that if in fact a person can be, and we'll go back to working remotely, if a person ever works remotely, they've got to first prove that they can work together in order to be able to be trusted to work alone.
Okay. So, Doctor, you have a question here. This comes from Luther, and he actually says this question's for me, but I was wondering if you could actually give some insight into it from your perspective as well. He said, what did you do, or what did he do before God promoted him to being full-time in the ministry, full-time pastor? Well, I mean,
Well, I think that question is for you. I mean, I'll answer. I'll give you something after you're done, but
it's interesting. When I read that question, I don't see a direct path that you can see beforehand. I really like that verse and how it really says it in New Living Translation, that you let God transform you by changing the way that you think, so then you will know. I like the then you will know. It comes after the fact that you kind of gave yourself over to the Word, and it seems like it begins to put you on this path and guide you on this path without fully knowing what different stops are going to be along the way, and I think it's little by little. I remember us beginning a relationship when I was in college, and me asking you questions on a daily basis. We started through fax machine.
I told you were crazy.
Through fax machine, and you used to write with your Sharpie marker, and then you'd fax it back, and then we went to email, and continued ever since. And then I was working under Pastor Jacques at the time with the youth ministry, and then 2 years later, I started to assist you, and then just recently you had placed me in the associate pastor role. So I guess it's just simply allowing, hopefully, the Word to produce inside my life and see where it takes it.
And Justin, that's absolutely right. The path that God has led you down in your life, you have not necessarily been given something by what people would call grace, as much as you have been diligent at what you've done. And that is that you have focused on the pleasure of those whom God has given you to serve.
Sure.
And when you focus on that pleasure, what happens is they recognize it. I recognized what your goals were. My job then, I had to begin to take a different view of you.
Sure. Okay.
And that was that I was then responsible for molding you into what God had for you. Whether or not that was going to have anything to do with me meant nothing. But as long as you held on and refused to let go, it was my responsibility to be able or to promote you. Because remember, you are not responsible for another man's promotion, but you are responsible to promote the man in whom you find improvement. And that is, for that gentleman, that is Luther, the essence for Luther. Luther, that's the essence of all of that. And God really, all God requires of you, he doesn't require skill from you. He doesn't require knowledge from you. And he doesn't necessarily require availability from you. Availability, people say, well, God uses the people that are available. I like that, but prostitutes are available. I mean, that when you choose to cut everything out of your life except for that one thing, who is that said? The Apostle Paul said this one thing I do.
Yep.
David said in Psalm 24, where he said, one thing.
Yeah, 27:4. Yep.
27 verse 4. He said, one thing have I desired of the Lord. One thing. Paul, this one thing. And Luther, as you become good at one thing, God will lead you and guide you, according to John 16:13, into all the truth.
That's very good. Okay, so we have this question from Noel. He says this, or they say this. I got a question. When you know what God has called you to do, how do you know when it's time for you to begin to step into it? When is it time to begin to step in? Oh, sorry. Yeah, when is it the right time to begin to step into that call?
Abraham Lincoln said this. He said, I will study and I will prepare. He said, and my hour will come. In Acts chapter 13, and remember, we must always have a biblical example to actually show us that something is the truth. Not just being true, because something that's true can be temporal truth. But we're looking for the truth of something. In Acts chapter 13, verses 1 through 4, it says that certain prophets and teachers had come together and fasted and prayed, and Paul and Barnabas were also among them. And the Holy Ghost said, he said, separate unto me Paul and Barnabas for the work whereunto I have called them. So you can see the very thing that you're saying is exactly what happened to Paul and Barnabas. And it was that they were called. You talked about, what God wants you to do. How do you know which time? You are the one who actually determines that God has called you. You do the preparation. Abraham Lincoln, I will study and I will prepare. He said, my hour will come. Winston Churchill said exactly the same thing. He said that I have been prepared to be able to do this. He told his friend, he said, there will be a day, and he was only 10 years old when he said this. He said, there will be a day when Britain will be in peril, and they will call upon me to deliver them. He said, I'm preparing. Wow. And he prepared. And there was a day when the king called him and he said, Winston, I'm asking you to create a government for me. And he said, and I knew that I had been prepared for such a time as this. I mean, it's when you know these stories, it's absolutely powerful. But in Acts chapter 13, Noel, it says this. it tells us that it's men that separate you. Men are the ones that put you in that position. It's not a position that you assume by yourself. Men place you there. And when men place you there, then you are there because you have been prepared. Because in between the call and the separation, and this is where people fail, is preparation. You prepare and your hour will come.
That's very good. You know, Dr. T, you have often said about this gap between what we know and what we do. How do you shorten that gap? Especially in an information junkie age, you know, where we're inundated with just information at every point. But how do you get the right information and shorten the gap?
Well, what we're missing now is that we don't have any time to be able to incubate information or sift information or boil information in order for the truth to come to the top. Or we can't sift our information like we're sifting for gold, because we're almost having to accept what people say as being the truth. So what we need to do, and you've heard me say it many times, we must shorten the gap between in between what we know and what we do, and that's what we call wisdom. And how we do it is that we must get ourselves around individuals that have already walked these things out. And then once we're around those individuals, we will be able to take somebody's word for something. If you take somebody's word, if you'll listen, and that's where you've heard me say many times, if I could get a person to listen to me instead of listening to everyone else and question me, you do that one of two, you know, in a number of ways. But if a person will, you can get a person to listen to you rather than question you, and they become questioning of you. The moment that a person becomes questioning is the moment that their journey is over. It has come to a close. But you shorten the time in between you, what you know and what you do, by taking someone's word for it.
He who walks with wise will become wise, right?
That's exactly right. And remember 1 Corinthians 15:33, where it says, don't you understand that bad company corrupts good moral behavior? Sure. You know, if you walk with wise people, you become wise. If you become a companion of fools, you end up becoming destroyed.
That's very good, sir. That's very, very good. Any closing thoughts that you have regarding this issue of you know, people believing? It's funny, they maybe put out there, God, I want this and I'm believing this, but there does have to be action to that faith and that belief, you know, that they have to put forth the diligence and the attitude and the problem solving. Let me ask you this, maybe. How does one become a problem solver if they are not one now?
Actually, you have to begin to look externally rather than internally. Every person in life looks at life one of two ways. Either they're looking for someone to solve their problems, and we call that selfish. It starts out when we're babies. We cry because we want something. We learn when we're 5 years old that we're going to throw a fit until our parents give us what we want. People still do that, even when they're 70 years old. We found that to be true. So everyone looks for those one of two things. They either look for someone to solve problems for them, but then there are those who are wise who choose to solve problems for someone else. It's interesting because there was a wise man that had said one time, he said these words. He said, God has no problem in getting you what you want, the moment that you choose to get others what they want. And once you choose to get others what they want, life will turn completely around, because studies have shown it. Different research has proved it to be true, that you'll never become happy when you're looking for people to solve your problems. You only become happy when you choose to solve someone else's.
That's very good. I just want to let the people know who's on with us. Austin, Texas was on with us. Dublin, Ireland was on with us. St. Lucia's was on with us. Brazil was on with us. Texas, Rockwall, Texas was on with us. Houston, Texas was on with us. And Asia as well. So quite a few different places was online with us tonight.
I just want to thank you all for logging on. And I want you to just tell your friends that I want to talk with them. I'm inviting them. It's a personal invitation. I want each and every one of you to know how important that you are to me, because I know that you're the next generation. I want to give you everything that I know while I have the time in my life to be able to give it to you. Let me give you what I know so that you may give it to others who you have found worthy for the wisdom of God. So let me just tell you tonight how grateful I am, not only for you, but also for what God has called you to do. And I believe that you're becoming equipped for it. Let me pray for you before I let you go off into a world that you can change for someone else. Father, thank you that tonight, that my brothers and my sisters, that what they're doing tonight, Father God, is going to change the world. Each and every one of them are world changers, Father. Now, connect them. Connect them in their minds. Connect them with people. Connect them with relationships. Connect them, Father, with the right individuals that turns all doubt, all disappointment, all strife, all gossip, all backbiting out of doors, and bring them people that will solve their problems, that you may take them up, that they may solve the problems of others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
We'll talk to you again.
Good night, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.